Chapter 1. The Frozen Manor. The snow fell in relentless curtains, cloaking the Yorkshire moors in a silence so profound it seemed the world held its breath. Hercule Poirot, bundled in a heavy overcoat that did little to shield his fastidious soul from the chill, peered through the carriage window with a grimace. Beside him, Captain Arthur Satsons rubbed his gloved hands, his breath fogging the glass. "Ghastly weather, Poirot," Hastings muttered. "Why anyone would choose to live in such a forsaken place is beyond me." Poirot's moustache twitched, a sign of amusement or irritation. Hastings could never quite tell. The English, mon ami, they have a peculiar affection for their bleak landscapes, but it is not the weather that brings us to Harrow Manor, it is murder. The carriage jolted to a stop before a looming Georgian edifice, its stone facade silvered by moonlight and snow. Harrow Manor stood solitary, its windows glowing like wary eyes against the storm. A footman, half frozen, ushered them into a grand hall where a fire roared in vain against the creeping cold. Inspector Japp awaited them, his face etched with fatigue. "You're a sight for sore eyes, Poirot. Never thought I'd need your little grey cells for a case like this, but it's a proper puzzle. Tell me, Inspector," Poirot said, removing his gloves with precision. "What is the nature of this puzzle?" Japp gestured toward a mahogany staircase. "Sir Reginald Harrow, baronet, found dead in his study this morning. Stabbed through the heart, door locked from the inside, windows bolted, and not a soul could have come or gone, not with this snow." Hastings frowned. "No footprints outside, I presume?" "Not a one," Japp replied. "Snow's been falling since yesterday noon, thick and steady. You'd need wings to get to that study without leaving a trace." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "Wings, or perhaps cunning. Take me to the scene, if you please." The study was a fortress of oak and leather, its air heavy with the scent of old books and wax. Sir Reginald lay slumped over his desk, a silver letter opener buried in his chest. His face, frozen in shock, stared at a half-written page, the ink still wet. Around the room, snow pressed against the windows, sealing the manor in a crystalline vault. Poirot circled the body, his steps deliberate. "The lock! It was forced." "No sign of tampering," Japp said. "Key was in Sir Reginald's pocket. And the windows? Bolted tight, no scratches, no cracks." Hastings shivered, not entirely from the cold. "It's as if the killer vanished into thin air." Poirot knelt, inspecting the rug. "The air. It does not steal lives, Hastings. Men do. Or women, perhaps." He rose, his gaze sweeping the room. "Who resides in this manor?" Japp ticked off names on his fingers. "Lady Eleanor Harrow, the widow. Charles Harrow, the son, estranged but back for a visit. Mr. Grayson, the butler, been here 30 years. A guest, Dr. Varnham, some sort of scholar. And the usual staff maid, cook, footman." "Motives?" Poirot asked, his voice soft but probing. Japp shrugged. "Plenty to go around. Sir Reginald was a hard man, rich, but not generous. Family squabbles, debts, rumours of blackmail. You name it, it's here." A soft knock interrupted. The door creaked open to reveal Lady Eleanor Harrow, a woman of striking elegance despite her mourning black, her eyes, sharp as the letter opener, fixed on Poirot. "Mr. Poirot, I presume?" Her voice was cool, measured. "I trust you'll resolve this dreadful matter swiftly. My husband's death has shaken us all." Poirot inclined his head. "Madame, my condolences. May I ask where you were last evening?" "In York, visiting friends," she replied without hesitation. "I returned this morning, only to find this tragedy." Poirot's smile was polite, but his eyes missed nothing. "And the snow, it did not hinder your journey?" Her lips tightened. "I am accustomed to Yorkshire winters, Mr. Poirot." As she withdrew, Hastings leaned close. "Seems awfully composed for a grieving widow. Don't you think?" Poirot adjusted his scarf. "Grief, mon ami, wears many masks. But the snow, it tells no lies. We shall see what secrets it holds." Outside, the storm howled as if daring Poirot to unravel the truth buried beneath its icy veil. Chapter 2. The Locked Room. The study of Sir Reginald Harrow was a shrine to order, its shelves lined with leather-bound volumes, its desk a monument to precision. Yet, as Hercule Poirot stood at its centre, his eyes darting from the polished floor to the unyielding windows, he sensed a discord beneath the surface, a dissonance only murder could compose. Captain Hastings lingered by the door, his breath visible in the chill, while Inspector Japp hovered near the desk, watching Poirot with barely concealed impatience. "The room, it is a puzzle, none," Poirot murmured, his gloved fingers tracing the edge of a bookcase. "Locked from within, windows sealed, and yet a man lies dead. Tell me, Inspector, the precise time of death." Japp consulted his notebook. "Dr. Varnham, the guest, has some medical training. He estimates Sir Reginald died between 10 and midnight last night." The snow was already heavy by then. Poirot nodded, his gaze settling on the letter opener, still embedded in Sir Reginald's chest. "And this weapon, it belonged to the victim." "His initials are engraved on it," Japp confirmed. "Always kept it on his desk. Whoever used it didn't bring their own blade. An opportunist, perhaps," Poirot mused, "or one who wished to obscure their intent." He knelt, inspecting the rug beneath the desk. A faint smudge, barely perceptible, caught his eye. A trace of damp, perhaps, or something else. He filed it away in his mind, saying nothing. Hastings, restless, paced to a window. "No footprints outside, Poirot. I checked myself. The snow's untouched. A good foot deep. Nobody climbed in or out." Poirot's moustache curled slightly. "The snow, it is a silent witness, Hastings, but it speaks to those who listen. Let us now meet the household, for the key to this lock lies not in wood or iron, but in the hearts of men." The drawing room, warmed by a crackling fire, was a stark contrast to the study's chill. The suspects gathered, their faces a gallery of unease. Lady Eleanor Harrow sat erect, her black silk gown absorbing the firelight. Beside her, Charles Harrow, the prodigal son, slouched in a chair, his eyes bloodshot and defiant. Mr. Grayson, the butler, stood by the door, his posture rigid, hands clasped behind his back. Dr. Varnham, the mysterious guest, leaned against a mantelpiece, his scholarly air marred by a nervous twitch in his fingers. Poirot addressed them with a courteous bow. "The stems et monsieur, I am Hercule Poirot, and I am here to uncover the truth of Sir Reginald's death. Each of you, I understand, was elsewhere when the crime occurred. Let us begin with you, Mr. Harrow." Charles straightened, his voice sharp. "I was at the Red Lion Inn 5 miles away. Got stuck there when the snow started. Ask anyone at the bar, they'll tell you." "And yet," Poirot said, his tone mild, "inns are busy places. Memories can be imprecise. You returned when?" "This morning, after the ploughs cleared the road." Poirot turned to Dr. Varnham, whose spectacles glinted in the firelight. "And you, monsieur, your whereabouts last evening?" "I was visiting Lord Ashby's estate, 3 miles north," Dr. Varnham replied, his voice steady but his hands betraying a slight tremble. "I returned at dawn, when the snow eased." Poirot's eyes narrowed. "You are a scholar, yet you know this manor well, I observe. The corridors, the routines most familiar for a guest." Varnham flushed. "I've visited before. Sir Reginald was an acquaintance." The butler Grayson cleared his throat softly. Poirot's gaze snapped to him. "And you, Mr. Grayson?" "A butler sees all, hears all. Where were you when your master met his end?" "In my quarters, sir," Grayson said, his voice low but firm. "I retired after serving dinner at 8. The staff can confirm I was below stairs all evening." Poirot smiled faintly. "And yet a locked room suggests someone was near, someone who left no trace in the snow." He paused, letting the words hang. "Tell me, Lady Harrow, you were in York. At what hour did you depart?" Lady Eleanor's eyes met his unflinching. "I left at 6 yesterday evening, before the snow worsened. My friends, the Whitfields, will vouch for me." "Most convenient," Poirot said softly, "that the snow should fall so heavily after your departure." He clasped his hands, addressing them all. "The locked room, It is not merely a barrier of wood. It is a challenge to the little grey cells, and I, Hercule Poirot, accept this challenge. As the group dispersed, Hastings whispered, "They're all so blasted sure of themselves, Poirot. But one of them's lying, aren't they?" Poirot's eyes twinkled. "One, mon ami. Perhaps more. The snow, it hides much, but it cannot hide everything. We shall see." Outside, the storm had paused, leaving the manor encased in a pristine shroud of white, as if mocking the secrets locked within. Chapter 3. The Alibi of Lady Harrow. The morning light, filtered through the snow-laden clouds, cast a pallor over Harrow Manor's dining room. Hercule Poirot, impeccable in his tailored suit, despite the cold, sipped his tisane with a delicacy that belied the sharpness of his gaze. Across the table, Lady Eleanor Harrow sat with the poise of a queen, her hands folded over a lace napkin, her expression unreadable. Captain Hastings, nursing a cup of tea, watched the exchange with barely concealed curiosity, while Inspector Japp lingered by the door, scribbling in his notebook. "Madam," Poirot began, his voice smooth as velvet, "your composure in the face of tragedy, it is remarkable, but the heart, it often hides what the face does not show. You will permit me to ask a few questions?" Lady Eleanor inclined her head, her dark eyes steady. "Of course, Miss Poirot, I have nothing to conceal." Poirot set down his cup, his fingers steepled. "You were in York, you say, visiting the Whitfields. At 6 o'clock yesterday evening you departed this manor, before the snow became impassable. Is this correct?" "Precisely," she replied. "I took the motor car. The roads were clear then, though the snow began soon after. And you arrived in York at what hour?" "By 8, I believe. The Whitfields will confirm it. We dined together, and I stayed the night." Poirot's moustache twitched, a faint signal of his mind at work. 8 o'clock. A 2-hour journey then. Most efficient, considering the weather. "And your return this morning, how was it accomplished, with the roads so burdened by snow?" Lady Eleanor's fingers tightened briefly on her napkin, a gesture so fleeting Hastings nearly missed it. "The ploughs had cleared the main road by dawn," she said. "I left York at 7 and was here by 9, only to learn of my husband's misfortune." Poirot nodded, his eyes never leaving her face. "Misfortune? Yes. A locked room, a letter opener, and no footprints in the snow. It is a curious misfortune. Tell me, madam, your marriage to Sir Reginald, it was harmonious?" A shadow crossed her face, though her voice remained even. "My husband was a man of strong character, Mr. Poirot. We had our differences, as all couples do, but I was devoted to him." "Devoted," Poirot echoed softly, "and yet there are whispers, forgive me, madame, of financial strain, of arguments. Sir Reginald, he was not a generous man, perhaps." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Whispers are the currency of idle minds. My husband provided for this household, and I managed it as best I could." Before Poirot could press further, the door swung open, and Charles Harrow strode in, his face flushed with either cold or anger. "Mother, why are you humouring this nonsense? We've all told our stories. Let the man do his job and leave us to grieve." Lady Eleanor's gaze flicked to her son, sharp and warning. "Charles, mind your manners. Mr. Poirot is here to help." Charles snorted, dropping into a chair. "Help? He's poking about, stirring trouble. I was at the Red Lion. Mother was in York, and that's the end of it." Poirot turned to Charles, his expression mild, but his eyes piercing. "Monsieur Harrow, your faith in alibis, it is touching. But the snow, it does not respect such faith. It falls when it wills, and it tells me that someone's story is not as solid as they believe." Charles's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Lady Eleanor rose, smoothing her gown. "If you'll excuse me, Mr. Poirot, I have matters to attend to. The household does not run itself, even in mourning." As she glided from the room, Hastings leaned toward Poirot. "She's cool as ice, isn't she? Not a crack in her story, but something's off." Poirot's eyes followed Lady Eleanor's retreating figure. "Ice, mon ami? is brittle when struck in the right place. Her alibi, it is too perfect, too polished, and perfection, it is the enemy of truth. Japp approached, lowering his voice. I've telephoned York, Poirot. The Whitfields confirm Lady Eleanor was with them, right on schedule. But I've asked for more details. Servants' accounts, that sort of thing. Bien, Poirot said. Rise. The devil, Inspector, is in those details. And the snow, it is his silent accomplice. Let us see what else it has to say. Outside, the manor grounds lay under a pristine blanket, the snow untouched, save for the tracks of the morning's arrivals. Poirot paused, his breath clouding in the air, his mind already turning over the puzzle of Lady Eleanor's journey and the lie he was certain it concealed. Chapter 4. The Butler's Tale. The servants' hall of Harrow Manor was a dim utilitarian space, its walls lined with faded photographs of long-serving staff, and a single flickering lamp casting shadows across the worn table. Hercule Poirot sat opposite Mr. Grayson, the butler, whose lined face and steady hands betrayed no hint of unease. Captain Hastings stood by the door, arms crossed, while Inspector Japp leaned against a wall, his eyes fixed on Grayson, as if expecting a confession to leap forth unbidden. Monsieur Grayson, Poirot began, his voice soft but precise, you are the backbone of this household, are you not? 30 years in service, a witness to every secret, every sorrow. Tell me, if you please, of the night Sir Reginald died. Grayson's posture remained rigid, his grey eyes meeting Poirot's, without flinching. I served dinner at 8, sir. As always, Sir Reginald dined alone in the study, as was his habit when he had business to attend to. I retired to my quarters shortly after, around 8:30. The other staff, Mary the maid, Mrs. Cook and young Tom the footman, were below stairs with me. Poirot's fingers tapped lightly on the table. And you heard nothing? No cries, no footsteps, no disturbance in the night? Nothing, sir, Grayson replied. The manor was quiet save for the storm. I slept until dawn when Mary screamed and we found the master. Hastings interjected, unable to contain himself. But dash it all, man. A murder happened under your nose. Locked room or not, someone must have moved about. You're telling us you noticed nothing odd? Grayson's lips tightened, a flicker of offense crossing his face. I am a butler, Captain Hastings, not a sentry. My duties end when the household retires. The snow was falling heavily. No one could have come or gone without leaving track. Poirot's eyes gleamed. The snow, it is ever present in this tale. Tell me, Monsieur Grayson, what was Sir Reginald's mood that evening? Was he troubled, perhaps? The butler hesitated, a crack in his otherwise impeccable composure. He was preoccupied, sir. He'd received a letter that afternoon, and it seemed to unsettle him. He burned it in the study fireplace before dinner. Poirot leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. A letter, you say, and you saw this act of destruction? Grayson nodded, his hands clasped tightly. I brought him his brandy, as usual. The fire was blazing, and I saw him toss the paper into it. He said nothing, but his face was grim. Japp perked up, jotting a note. Any idea who the letter was from, or what it said? No, sir, Grayson said firmly. It was not my place to ask. Poirot's moustache twitched, a sign of his mind at work. And yet you observe much, do you not? The dynamics of this household, Lady Eleanor's cool authority, Master Charles's resentment, Dr. Varnham's curious presence. You see it all, Monsieur Grayson. The butler's expression remained impassive, but his fingers twitched. I serve Mr. Poirot. I do not
Bien, Poirot said, rising with a graceful motion. But the truth, it has a way of prying into even the most loyal hearts. One last question. The study. It was locked when you retired. Yes, sir, Grayson replied. Sir Reginald always locked it himself after dinner. He kept the key in his pocket. As Poirot and Hastings stepped into the corridor, Japp followed, muttering, He's steady as a rock, that one. But that bit about the letter, think it's important. Poirot paused, his gaze distant. A letter burned, a room locked, a man dead, and snow that tells no tales yet. The butler, he knows more than he says, mon ami, but it is not yet time to press. His tale, it is too careful, like a script rehearsed. Hastings frowned. You think he's lying? Not lying, perhaps, Poirot said, adjusting his scarf, but omitting. The snow, it covers tracks, but it cannot cover the truth forever. Chapter 5. The Prodigal Son. The library of Harrow Manor, with its towering shelves and heavy velvet curtains, seemed to absorb sound, leaving only the crackle of the fire and the distant howl of the wind. Hercule Poirot stood by a window, his silhouette sharp against the snow-reflected light, while Charles Harrow sprawled in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in hand. Captain Hastings sat nearby, his notebook open, and Inspector Japp paced, his boots scuffing the polished floor. Monsieur Charles, Poirot began, his voice calm but piercing. You are the heir to this manor, yet you are, how shall I say, a stranger to its warmth. Your father, he was not pleased with your return, I think? Charles's eyes flashed, his grip tightening on the glass. Father didn't roll out the welcome mat, if that's what you mean. We hadn't spoken in years, not since he cut me off for dishonoring the family name. His words, not mine. Poirot's mustache twitched. And yet you returned. Why now, monsieur? Charles took a swig, his voice bitter. He sent for me. A letter, out of the blue, demanding I come to discuss family matters. I arrived 2 days ago, and we argued. Same old story. His money, my failures. Hastings leaned forward. What sort of failures? Gambling? Debts? Charles shot him a glare. Mind your own business, Captain. Let's just say father didn't approve of my choices. Poirot's eyes narrowed, catching the evasion. Your alibi, Monsieur Charles, it rests on the Red Lion Inn, 5 miles hence. You were there, you say, when the snow trapped you. Who can confirm this? The innkeeper, old Tompkins. Charles snapped. 6 locals too, swilling ale till midnight. I couldn't have gotten back here through that storm even if I'd wanted to. And yet, Poirot said, stepping closer, the heart, it can burn hotter than any storm. You argued with your father. Was it about money, perhaps, or something deeper? Charles's face reddened, but he held Poirot's gaze. Money, always money. He dangled the estate like a carrot, threatening to cut me out for good. But I didn't kill him. I was drunk at the Red Lion when he died. Japp interjected, flipping through his notebook. We're checking with the inn, Mr. Harrow. But you've got a temper, and that letter opener was handy. No footprints in the snow. True, but a clever man might have planned around that. Charles slammed his glass down, whiskey sloshing. Clever? You think I plotted to stab my father in a locked room, then waltzed back to the inn without a trace? You're mad. Poirot raised a hand, his tone soothing yet firm. Calm, monsieur. The little grey cells, they do not accuse. They inquire. Tell me this letter your father sent. Did it mention others? Lady Eleanor, perhaps? Or Dr. Varnham? Charles hesitated, his eyes darting to the fire. It mentioned mother. Something about settling accounts. I didn't ask what he meant. I was too angry. Poirot nodded, filing the detail away. And Dr. Varnham? You know him well. Met him yesterday, Charles said curtly. Odd chap. Kept to himself, poking around father's books. Said he was researching local history, but he asked too many questions about the family. Poirot's smile was faint, enigmatic. Merci, Monsieur Charles. Your candor, it is most illuminating. But the snow, it does not lie. And it whispers that not all is as it seems. As Charles stormed out, muttering under his breath, Hastings turned to Poirot. He's a hothead, Poirot. That row with his father sounds like motive to me. Japp nodded. And his alibi's shaky until we confirm it. 5 miles in a storm. Possible if he's desperate. Poirot gazed at the snow beyond the window, its surface unbroken save for the tracks of the morning's arrivals. Desperation. But also calculation. The prodigal son, he is angry, but is he cunning? The snow, it holds the answer, and we must listen closely. The fire crackled, casting long shadows as Poirot's mind turned over Charles's words. and the secrets the young man's anger might conceal. Chapter 6. The Mysterious Guest. The conservatory of Harrow Manor, with its frost-etched glass and wilting ferns, felt like a relic of warmer days, now hostage to the relentless snow. Hercule Poirot stood near a potted palm, his gloved hands clasped, his eyes fixed on Dr. Varnham, who perched uneasily on a wicker chair. Captain Hastings leaned against a pillar, his skepticism plain, while Inspector Japp hovered nearby, flipping through his notebook with a frown. "Monsieur le Docteur," Poirot began, his voice smooth but probing, "you are a guest in this house, yet you move through it with the ease of one who knows its secrets. A scholar, you say, researching local history, but history it is often a mask for other pursuits."
Dr. Varnham adjusted his spectacles, his fingers betraying a faint tremor. "I assure you, Mr. Poirot, my work is purely academic. Sir Reginald was kind enough to grant me access to his library for my study of Yorkshire estates." Poirot's moustache twitched, a subtle sign of his skepticism. "Kindness, from a man known for his parsimony, most intriguing. Tell me, where were you on the night of Sir Reginald's death?" Varnham cleared his throat, his voice steady but practiced. "I was at Lord Ashby's estate, 3 miles north, discussing rare manuscripts. I left Harrow Manor at 5 in the afternoon, before the snow worsened, and returned at dawn, when the roads were passable." Hastings raised an eyebrow. 3 miles in a storm, that's a trek, even for a scholar. "Anyone see you at Ashby's?" "Lord Ashby himself and his librarian," Varnham replied, his tone clipped. "They'll confirm I was there until well past midnight." Poirot stepped closer, his eyes glinting like polished steel. "And yet, monsieur, you know this manor's layout, the study, the corridors, even the habits of its master. For a guest of mere days, your familiarity, it is remarkable." Varnham's cheeks flushed, but he held Poirot's gaze. "I've visited before, as I told you. Last year for a similar project. Sir Reginald was an enthusiast of local law." "An enthusiast?" Poirot echoed, his tone laced with irony. "Or perhaps a man with secrets to guard. You asked questions, I am told, about the family. Lady Eleanor, Charles. Why such curiosity?" Varnham shifted, his hands gripping the chair's arms. "Merely context for my research. Estates like this are shaped by their owners' lives, marriages, disputes, inheritances." Japp snorted, stepping forward. "Sounds like you were digging for dirt. Doctor, did Sir Reginald catch you snooping? Maybe that's why he ended up with a letter opener in his chest." Varnham's eyes widened, his composure cracking. "That's absurd. I barely spoke to him that day. I was at Ashby's when he died. Ask them." Poirot raised a hand, silencing Japp. "Calm, Monsieur Varnham. The little grey cells, they seek only clarity. Tell me, did Sir Reginald ever mention a letter that troubled him, perhaps?" Varnham hesitated, his gaze flickering to the snow beyond the glass. "He mentioned receiving correspondence. Yes, 2 days ago, over tea. He said it was a nuisance, but didn't elaborate. I assumed it was business." Poirot nodded, his mind cataloguing the detail. "And this library you so admire, did you visit it the evening before your departure to Ashby's?" "No," Varnham said quickly, too quickly. "I was packing my notes. I had no reason to go there." Poirot's smile was faint, enigmatic. "Merci, monsieur. Your answers, they paint a picture. But the canvas, it is not yet complete. The snow it watches, and it will reveal what words conceal." As Varnham rose, muttering about needing air, Hastings whispered to Poirot, "Shifty fellow, isn't he? That story about Ashby's feels rehearsed, and he's far too nosy for a bookworm." Japp nodded, scribbling a note. "I'll wire Lord Ashby's estate, check his alibi. If he's lying, we'll know soon enough." Poirot gazed at the conservatory's frosted panes, where snow clung like a shroud. "Lying, perhaps, or hiding. Dr. Varnham, he is a piece of this puzzle, but the shape it is not yet clear. The snow, mon ami, it knows his steps, or the lack of them." The wind moaned outside as if echoing the secrets Dr. Varnham carried, locked tighter than the study where Sir Reginald had met his end. Chapter 7. The Snow's Silent Witness. The morning air bit at Hercule Poirot's face as he stood on the terrace of Harrow Manor, his overcoat buttoned tightly against the Yorkshire chill. The snow lay thick and undisturbed, a pristine sheet that stretched across the grounds, broken only by the tracks of the morning's arrivals. Captain Hastings, bundled in a scarf, shivered beside him, while Inspector Japp, ever pragmatic, stamped his boots to keep warm. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his eyes scanning the snow, "the solution to this crime, it lies not only in the words of men, but in the silence of nature. The snow, it is a witness that cannot be bribed or coerced, and it has much to tell us." Hastings squinted at the featureless white expanse. "Looks like a lot of nothing to me, Poirot. No footprints, no tracks, just snow. How's that going to help us?" Poirot's mustache twitched with a faint smile. "Patience, Hastings. The absence of evidence, it is itself evidence. Come, let us consult the gamekeeper. He knows the moods of this land." They trudged through the snow to a small cottage at the edge of the estate, where Mr. Ellis, the grizzled gamekeeper, greeted them with a nod. His weathered face and calloused hands spoke of years spent battling the elements. "Miss Ellis," Poirot began, his voice precise, "you are a man of the outdoors way. You know the ways of snow, its patterns, its secrets. Tell me, when did the storm begin on the night of Sir Reginald's death?" Ellis rubbed his chin, his eyes narrowing as he recalled. "Started light, around 4 in the afternoon. Just flurries, mind you. Got heavy by 6, proper blizzard by 8. Didn't let up till near midnight." Poirot's eyes gleamed. "And the snow, it accumulated quickly." "Aye," Ellis said, gesturing to the drift. "By 10, it was nigh on 6 inches deep. No one could have walked out there without leaving a mark. Not after 7 or so." Japp perked up, his notebook at the ready. "So anyone claiming they left the manor after 6 would have left tracks, unless they sprouted wing." "Précisément," Poirot said, his gaze fixed on the snow. "And yet we have alibis that depend on departures before the snow became impassable. Lady Eleanor to York at 6, Dr. Varnham to Lord Ashby's at 5. Charles to the Red Lion, earlier still. The snow, it narrows the window." Hastings frowned, rubbing his hands for warmth. "But the study's windows were bolted, Poirot. No footprints outside, no way in or out. How does the snow help with a locked room?" Poirot turned, his expression enigmatic. "The locked room, it is not the puzzle, Hastings. It is the timing. The snow tells us when movement was possible, and when it was not. If someone lies about their whereabouts, the snow will betray them." They returned to the manor, where Poirot paused at the study's exterior window, its frame crusted with ice. He crouched, examining the snow beneath. It was smooth, untouched, but a faint irregularity caught his eye. A patch where the snow seemed slightly denser, as if compacted by some subtle weight. "Curious," Poirot murmured, brushing a gloved finger across the surface. "The snow, it is not always as innocent as it appears." Japp followed his gaze, puzzled. "What's that, Poirot? You think someone tampered with it?" "Not tampered, Inspector," Poirot said, rising. "But used. The snow, it is a canvas, and someone has painted a lie upon it. We must verify these alibis. Lady Eleanor's journey, Dr. Varnham's visit, Charles's night at the inn. One of them, I suspect, could not have been where they claim." Hastings shivered, glancing at the manor's looming facade. "You're saying the killer was here in the house, all along?" Poirot's eyes twinkled. "Perhaps, mon ami, or perhaps the snow has hidden a path we have not yet seen. The little grey cells, they are listening, and the snow, it is speaking." As they re-entered the manor, the wind stirred, lifting a fine mist of snow that danced like ghosts across the grounds, as if mocking Poirot's pursuit of the truth buried beneath its frozen veil. Chapter 8. The Hidden Correspondence. The study of Harrow Manor, with its heavy oak desk and shelves of dusty tomes, seemed to hold its breath as Hercule Poirot methodically searched its contents. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and tragedy. The letter opener,
still glinting in Sir Reginald's lifeless chest. Captain Hastings stood by the fireplace, warming his hands, while Inspector Japp rifled through a drawer, his brow furrowed with concentration. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice a soft murmur, as he examined the desk's surface. "The heart of a man's secrets lies not in his words, but in what he keeps hidden. This desk, it is a vault of truths untold." Hastings glanced over, his curiosity piqued. "Found something, Poirot?" "Grayson mentioned a letter Sir Reginald burned, but surely there's more." Poirot's fingers paused on a concealed panel beneath the desk's blotter. With a gentle press, a hidden compartment sprang open, revealing a bundle of letters tied with a black ribbon. His eyes gleamed as he carefully untied the knot, spreading the papers before him. "Voilà," he said, his tone triumphant yet restrained. "The correspondence that was not burned. Let us see what Sir Reginald wished to conceal." Japp hurried over, peering at the letters. "What we got? Love notes, debts, blackmail." Poirot scanned the first letter, his expression unreadable. "Blackmail. Indeed, Inspector. This one, it demands payment, a considerable sum to keep silent about a matter of great shame. It is unsigned, but the tone suggests familiarity with the family." Hastings leaned in, reading over Poirot's shoulder. "Good Lord, it mentions the indiscretions of the heir. That's Charles, surely. Was someone threatening to expose him?" Poirot nodded, turning to another letter. "And this addressed to Lady Eleanor, but never sent. Sir Reginald writes of betrayals uncovered, and a trust broken. The words are cryptic, but the anger, it is palpable." Japp whistled softly. "Sounds like Sir Reginald was at odds with half the household." "Any mention of Dr. Varnham?" Poirot's eyes narrowed as he examined a third letter. This one in a different hand. "Curious. This is from Dr. Varnham, dated a year ago. He requests access to the manor's archives, but there is a line, 'I know what lies beneath the family's honor.' A veiled threat, perhaps." Hastings shook his head, bewildered. "Varnham, a blackmailer? But he's just a scholar, isn't he? Why would he meddle in family affairs?" Poirot's mustache twitched. "A scholar with an interest in secrets, mon ami. These letters, they weave a tapestry of motives. Charles's debts, Lady Eleanor's betrayal, Varnham's knowledge, and yet the snow, it tells us no one entered or left this room." Japp frowned, tapping his notebook. "Maybe the killer didn't need to leave. Grayson was below stairs, but he could have slipped up before locking the study. Or Charles, sneaking back from the inn before the snow got too deep." Poirot closed the compartment, pocketing the letters with care. "Possible, Inspector, but the snow's timing, it is precise. Miss Ellis, the gamekeeper, tells us the blizzard was heavy by 8. These alibis, Lady Eleanor in York, Charles at the Red Lion, Varnham at Lord Ashby's, they hinge on leaving before the snow betrayed their movements." Hastings shivered, glancing at the snow-pressed window. "So one of them's lying, and these letters point to why. But how did they get into a locked room without leaving tracks?" Poirot's smile was faint, enigmatic. "The room, it is not the puzzle, Hastings. It is the illusion of impossibility. These letters, they reveal the why, greed, shame, betrayal. The how, it is written in the snow if we read it correctly." As they left the study, the manor's silence seemed heavier, as if the walls themselves guarded the secrets of the letter. Outside, the snow lay untouched, a silent witness to the lies that Poirot's little grey cells were determined to unravel. Chapter 9. The Midnight Confession. The servants' quarters of Harrow Manor were cloaked in shadow, the single candle on the table casting flickering ghosts across the plaster walls. Hercule Poirot sat opposite Mary, the young maid, whose hands twisted nervously in her apron. Her eyes, wide with fear, darted toward the door where Captain Hastings stood, his expression a mix of sympathy and suspicion. Inspector Japp, seated nearby, tapped his pencil against his notebook, his patience visibly thinning. "Mademoiselle Mary," Poirot said, his voice gentle yet unyielding, "you are troubled. I see it. The weight of this house, it presses on you. Speak, and let the truth lighten your burden." Mary's lip trembled, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean to listen, sir. Truly I didn't. but I heard something that night, and it's been gnawing at me ever since." Hastings leaned forward, his tone encouraging. "Go on, Mary. Whatever you heard, it could help us find Sir Reginald's killer."
She swallowed hard, her hands clenching the fabric of her apron. "It was near midnight, sir. I was in the pantry, fetching a tray for Mrs. Cook. She'd forgotten it after dinner. I heard voices, angry ones, coming from the study. Sir Reginald, he was shouting, and someone was shouting back." Poirot's eyes gleamed, his posture sharpening. "Voices, you say? Could you distinguish them? A man, a woman?" Mary shook her head, her voice quavering. "I couldn't tell, sir. The walls are thick, and the storm was loud, but it was fierce. Words about betrayal and paying a price. Then a crash, like something heavy, fell. I was scared, so I ran back to the kitchen." Japp frowned, scribbling furiously. "Midnight, you say? That fits the doctor's estimate of the time of death. Why didn't you speak up sooner, girl?" Mary's eyes filled with tears. "I was afraid, sir. I thought they'd think I had something to do with it. I'm just a maid. I didn't want trouble." Poirot raised a hand, his tone soothing. "Calm. Mademoiselle, you have done well to speak now. This crash, could it have been a struggle? A body falling, perhaps?" "I don't know, sir," Mary whispered. "It was loud, like a chair or a table. I didn't dare go near the study after that." Poirot leaned back, his fingers steepled. "And the household? They were all accounted for. You thought? Lady Eleanor in York, Monsieur Charles at the inn, Dr. Varnham at Lord Ashby's, Mr. Grayson below stairs. Yet someone was in that study with Sir Reginald." Mary nodded, her voice barely audible. "I thought everyone was gone or asleep, sir. But the snow, it was so thick by then. No one could have come from outside." Hastings glanced at Poirot, his brow furrowed. "That's the rub, isn't it? No footprints in the snow, and the room was locked. If Mary's right, the killer was already inside the manor." Japp snapped his notebook shut. "Sounds like we need to shake these alibis again. Someone's lying, Charles. Varnham, maybe even Grayson, or Lady Eleanor, cool as she is." Poirot's gaze drifted to the candle's flame, his mind turning over the new piece of the puzzle. The confession of Mademoiselle Mary. It is a crack in the facade, a voice in the study, a crash at midnight, and yet the snow betrays no movement. It tells us the killer was clever enough to weave an alibi as tight as the locked room. Mary sniffled, wiping her eyes. "I'm sorry, sir. I should have said something sooner." Poirot's smile was kind but enigmatic. "You have spoken now, and that is enough. The little grey cells, they will do the rest. Go, mademoiselle, and fear no more." As Mary hurried from the room, Hastings muttered, "Poor girl's terrified. But her story changes things, doesn't it? Someone was in that study, arguing with Sir Reginald, just before he died." Poirot rose, adjusting his cuffs. "Oui, mon ami. The snow, it tells us no one entered or left. But the voices, they tell us someone was there. The letters, the alibis, the snow, they are threads in a tapestry. And one thread is false. We must find it." Outside, the snow lay silent under the moon's pale gaze, its unbroken surface a challenge to Poirot's relentless pursuit of the truth. Chapter 10. The Tracks That Weren't There. The drawing room of Harrow Manor glowed softly under the chandelier's light, its warmth a fragile shield against the icy grip of the Yorkshire winter. Hercule Poirot stood before the fireplace, his small, precise figure commanding the room, despite its grandeur. Captain Hastings sat on a velvet settee, his notebook open, while Inspector Japp leaned against a bookcase, his eyes darting between Poirot and the snow-laden windows. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice clear and deliberate. "We stand at the heart of a puzzle most ingenious. A man is dead, stabbed in a locked room, with no footprints in the snow to betray the killer's coming or going. Yet the snow, it is not merely an obstacle, it is our guide. Let us reconstruct the night of Sir Reginald's death." Japp straightened, his tone skeptical. "Reconstruct? We've got no tracks, Poirot. The snow's a blank slate,
How's that going to tell us anything? Poirot's moustache twitched, a spark of amusement in his eye. The absence, Inspector. It speaks as loudly as the presence. Consider the timeline, as told by Mr. Ellis, the gamekeeper. The snow began lightly at 4, grew heavy by 6, and was a blizzard by 8. By 10, it was 6 inches deep. No one could move outside without leaving a mark. Hastings frowned, flipping through his notes. Right. So Lady Eleanor left for York at 6, Dr. Varnham for Lord Ashby's at 5, and Charles for the Red Lion earlier. Grayson and the staff were below stairs. Mary heard an argument at midnight, but no one could have entered or left the study after the snow thickened. Precisement, Poirot said, pacing slowly. The study's windows were bolted, the door locked, the key in Sir Reginald's pocket. Yet Mary's confession, a quarrel, a crash at midnight, tells us someone was there. The snow, it says this person did not arrive or depart after 7. They were already within these walls. Japp's eyes narrowed. So you're saying the killer never left the manor? That rules out Lady Eleanor and Varnham, doesn't it? They were miles away. Poirot raised a finger, his expression enigmatic. Or so they claim. Let us examine the snow itself. He moved to the window, gesturing to the pristine drifts outside. I observed, this morning, a curious patch beneath the study window, denser, as if pressed by some weight, yet no distinct footprints. It suggests an attempt to obscure a trace, perhaps. Hastings sat up, intrigued. You mean someone tried to cover their tracks? But how? The snow was too deep by midnight. Poirot's gaze was distant, his mind turning. The how, it is tied to the when. If the killer was in the study at midnight, as Mary's tale suggests, they did not leave through the snow. The room's lock, it was not forced. The windows not open, yet the murder occurred. This points to a deception, a trick of timing or method. Japp scratched his head. A trick? You're saying someone faked their alibi, stayed in the house, and killed Sir Reginald without leaving a trace? Exactement, Poirot said, his voice soft but certain. The letters we found: blackmail, betrayal, threats. They give us motive. Charles, angry at his father's control. Lady Eleanor, hiding a broken trust. Dr. Varnham, with his veiled threats. Even Grayson, so loyal yet so silent. One of them crafted an alibi to appear absent, but the snow, it betrays the lie. Hastings shivered, glancing at the window. But whose lie? Poirot. They've all got witnesses. York, Ashby's, the inn. Unless someone's bribed or mistaken. Poirot's smile was faint, almost mischievous. The little grey cells. They are working, mon ami. The snow's silence. It is not absolute. It whispers of a path not taken, a moment misjudged. We must verify these alibis with precision. Times, distances, the snow's depth. One will crack, and the tracks that weren't there will lead us to the truth. As the fire crackled, casting long shadows across the room, the snow outside seemed to pulse with secrets, daring Poirot to uncover the killer hidden in its frozen embrace.
Chapter 11. The breaking of the alibi. The dining room of Harrow Manor was a theatre of tension, its long mahogany table reflecting the flickering light of a chandelier that seemed to tremble with anticipation. Hercule Poirot stood at the head, his small frame radiating authority, his eyes sweeping over the assembled suspects. Lady Eleanor Harrow poised yet pale, Charles Harrow slouched with a scowl, Dr. Varnham fidgeting with his spectacles, and Mr. Grayson the butler standing rigidly by the door. Captain Hastings sat to one side, his notebook forgotten, while Inspector Japp stood near Poirot, his arms crossed, awaiting the detective's next move. Mesdames et messieurs, Poirot began, his voice clear and commanding, we have danced around the truth long enough. A man is dead, stabbed in a locked room, with no footprints in the snow to betray the killer. Yet the snow, it is not silent, it screams of a lie. Tonight, an alibi will break and the truth will emerge. Lady Eleanor's eyes narrowed, her voice cool. Mr. Poirot, your theatrics are tiresome. We've all accounted for our whereabouts. What more do you want? Poirot's moustache twitched, a glint of triumph in his gaze.
What I want, madame, is precision. Your alibi, it is a masterpiece of timing. Departure to York at 6, arrival by 8, confirmed by the Whitfields, but the snow, it tells a different story. He paced slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. The gamekeeper, Mr. Ellis, informs us the snow began at 4, light flurries, but by 6 it was heavy, and by 8 a blizzard. By 10 the drifts were 6 inches deep. No one could move outside without leaving tracks. Yet you, madame, claim you drove to York a 2-hour journey through this storm. Lady Eleanor's fingers tightened on her chair. The roads were clear when I left. I've told you this. Clear at 6, Poirot said, stopping before her. But the snow, it was falling heavily by then. I have telephoned the York Constabulary. They report the road to Harrow Manor was impassable by 7, buried under snow. Your motor car, madame, could not have made the journey in 2 hours. You were not in York at 8. A gasp escaped Charles, his eyes darting to his mother. What's he saying, mother? You were here? Lady Eleanor's face remained a mask, but her voice wavered. This is nonsense. The Whitfields confirmed my presence. You've spoken to them. Japp stepped forward, his tone grim. We have, Lady Harrow. Their servants say you arrived closer to 10, not 8. You had time to stay here, in the manor, until the snow was deep enough to cover your tracks. Poirot raised a hand, silencing the room. And there is more. The patch of snow beneath the study window, it was denser, as if brushed smooth, not to hide footprints but to conceal the absence of tire tracks from your motor car, which did not leave when you claimed. You were in this house, madame, at midnight. When Mary heard the argument in the study, Dr. Varnham's spectacles slipped, his voice sharp. This is speculation. You've no proof she was in the study. Poirot turned to him, his gaze piercing. Not yet, Monsieur Varnham. But the snow, it betrays you all. Your alibi, too, is fragile. Lord Ashby's librarian places you at his estate after 9, not 8. Charles the Red Lion's patrons recall you, but none after 11. And Grayson, your silence, it is too perfect. One of you was in that study, and the snow proves you could not have left. Charles slammed a fist on the table. This is madness. You're accusing us all. Not all, Poirot said softly. Only one. The letters we found, blackmail, betrayal, they point to motive. The snow, it points to opportunity. Lady Eleanor, your alibi is broken. Will you speak, or shall the little grey cells continue? Lady Eleanor's composure cracked, her eyes blazing. You dare accuse me? I loved my husband, despite his faults. I was in your... Poirot's smile was faint, unyielding. The snow, madame, it does not lie, and it tells me you were here, in this manor, when Sir Reginald died. The room fell silent, the weight of Poirot's words settling like the snow outside, as the suspects exchanged uneasy glances, each wondering who would break next under the detective's relentless scrutiny. Chapter 12. The Final Twist. The grand hall of Harrow Manor was a stage set for revelation. Its high ceilings and ancestral portraits, looming over the assembled suspects. Hercule Poirot stood before the roaring fireplace, his small stature belied by the commanding presence of his intellect. Lady Eleanor Harrow sat rigidly, her face a mask of defiance. Charles Harrow slumped beside her, his eyes bloodshot with unease. Dr. Varnham clutched his spectacles, his hands trembling, and Mr. Grayson, the butler, stood by the door, his expression unreadable. Captain Hastings and Inspector Japp flanked Poirot, their anticipation palpable in the tense silence. Mesdames, Messieurs, Poirot began, his voice resonant. We have unravelled a tapestry of lies, woven with care to conceal a murder most cunning. Sir Reginald Harrow stabbed in a locked room with no footprints in the snow. Yet the snow, it has spoken, and the truth, it is now clear. The killer is among us. Lady Eleanor's voice cut through, sharp as ice. Enough of your riddles, Mr. Poirot. You've accused me, but I was in your... You have no proof. Poirot's eyes twinkled, his moustache twitching. Proof, madame. The snow provides it. But let us first revisit the puzzle. The study was locked. The key in Sir Reginald's pocket. The windows bolted. No tracks outside. Mary the maid heard an argument at midnight. A crash, yet the snow deep by then betrays no movement. How then was the crime committed? Charles snorted, his voice bitter. You're saying one of us was in the house, but we've all got alibis. You're chasing shadow. Poirot raised a finger, silencing him. Not shadows, Monsieur Charles, but illusions. The letters we found. Blackmail, betrayal, revealed motives. You, Charles, resented your father's control. Lady Eleanor, you hid a broken trust. Dr. Varnham, your threats hinted at secret. Grayson, your loyalty masked. Silence. But the snow, it narrowed the truth. He turned to Dr. Varnham, whose face paled. Monsieur Varnham, your alibi. Lord Ashby's estate was false. The librarian confirmed you arrived after 9, not 8. You were here, in the manor, at midnight. Varnham leapt to his feet, his voice shrill. That's a lie. I was researching, not murdering. Poirot's gaze was unrelenting. Researching, but not history. The letters showed you knew Sir Reginald's secrets. A scandal perhaps tied to the family's past. You blackmailed him, demanding money to stay silent, but Sir Reginald refused, and so you acted. Grayson stepped forward, his voice low. Sir, you can't mean Dr. Varnham killed the master. He's a guest, not a killer. Poirot's smile was faint, enigmatic. Patience, Monsieur Grayson. The twist, it is not yet complete. Dr. Varnham, you argued with Sir Reginald at midnight, as Mary heard, but you did not strike the blow. The crash she heard, it was not a struggle, but a diversion. You left the study alive, locking the door behind you because the murder had already occurred. A collective gasp filled the room. Hastings leaned forward, bewildered. Already occurred, but the body was fresh, Poirot. Poirot nodded, his voice steady. Oui, mon ami. The little grey cells, they see the trick. Sir Reginald was killed earlier, between 8 and 10, before the snow was too deep. The killer used a slow poison, administered at dinner to weaken him. The letter opener was plunged into his chest later, at midnight, by a mechanism. A spring-loaded device hidden in the desk, triggered remotely. The crash Mary heard was the device's release.
Turpin's jaw dropped. A mechanical murder. That's diabolical. Indeed, Poirot said, turning to Lady Eleanor, and only one person had the knowledge, the access and the motive to devise it. Madame, your alibi was a lie. You were not in York at 8. You were here, setting the trap. The poison, it was in Sir Reginald's brandy, served at dinner. You knew his habits, his desk, his secrets. The letters revealed your betrayal. A lover, perhaps, or a financial scheme he threatened to expose. You killed him to silence him. Lady Eleanor's face drained of colour, her voice a whisper. You're mad. I loved my husband. Poirot's eyes softened, but his resolve was iron. Love, madame, can breed desperation. The snow betrayed you. Your motorcar left no tracks, because it never left until dawn, when you smoothed the snow to hide your delay. The Whitfields' loyal friends lied to protect you, but the snow, it could not. Charles surged to his feet, his voice breaking. Mother? Is this true? Lady Eleanor's mask shattered, her shoulders sagging. I had no choice. He was going to ruin us, our name, our future. I did it for you, Charles. Poirot shook his head, his voice gentle. The final twist. Madame, is this? You did not act alone. Dr. Varnham, your accomplice, crafted the device. His scholarly hands, so precise, built the trap. He blackmailed you too, forcing your hand. Together you wove the perfect alibi, but the snow, it was your undoing. Varnham collapsed into his chair sobbing, as Japp signalled for constables to enter. The hall fell silent, the weight of the truth settling like the snow outside, its pristine surface now a mirror to the lies it had exposed. Chapter 13. The Resolution in the Snow. The morning sun broke through the heavy clouds, casting a golden glow over Harrow Manor's snow-draped grounds. The drifts, once a silent conspirator in the mystery, now sparkled with a deceptive innocence, their secrets laid bare. Hercule Poirot stood on the terrace, his overcoat buttoned against the lingering chill, his eyes tracing the melting edges of the snow. Captain Hastings stood beside him, his breath visible in the crisp air, while Inspector Japp, ever practical, adjusted his hat and prepared to depart with the prisoners. "Mon ami," Poirot said, his voice soft but resonant, "the snow, it has played its part admirably. It hid the truth, yet revealed it. A paradox most fitting for a case of such deception." Hastings shook his head, still marveling. "I'll never look at a snowstorm the same way, Poirot. Lady Eleanor and Dr. Varnham, such a cunning pair. That mechanical trap, the poison in the brandy, the faked alibis, it was almost perfect." Poirot's mustache twitched, a faint smile beneath it. "Almost, Hastings. The human heart, it is never perfect. Lady Eleanor, driven by fear of ruin, and Dr. Varnham, by greed and ambition, they wove a web of lies, but the snow, it was their judge." Japp approached, his notebook tucked away. "We've got them both, Poirot. Lady Eleanor's confessed to the poison, and Varnham's admitted to building that devilish device in the desk. The Whitfields are being questioned for lying about her arrival in York. It's a tidy wrap-up thanks to you." Poirot inclined his head, his expression humble yet knowing. "The little grey cells, Inspector, they merely listen to what the evidence whispers. The snow, it spoke of timing. The letters, of motive. Mary's confession, of opportunity. Together, they pointed to the truth." Inside the manor, the household was in disarray. Charles Harrow, shaken by his mother's betrayal, had retreated to the library, grappling with the weight of his family's shattered legacy. Mr. Grayson, ever stoic, had offered his resignation, unable to bear the stain on the manor's honor. Mary and the other servants moved quietly, their relief tempered by the sorrow of the tragedy. Hastings glanced back at the manor, its stone facade softened by the melting snow. "Poor Charles, he's lost everything, his father, his mother, his inheritance. Do you think he suspected her?" Poirot's gaze was distant, thoughtful. "Suspected, perhaps, but the heart, it blinds us to those we love. Charles's anger, it was real, but it masked his fear of losing her. Now, he must rebuild, as the snow melts and the wounds heal." Japp clapped his hands, breaking the mood. "Well, I'm off to York to file the reports. Care to join me, Poirot? Or are you staying to enjoy this blasted cold?" Poirot chuckled, adjusting his scarf. "Non, Inspector. The cold, it is not for Hercule Poirot. A warm fire, a tisane, and the satisfaction of justice. These are my rewards, but I thank you for the adventure." As Japp's carriage crunched away through the thawing snow, Hastings turned to Poirot, his voice quiet. "You know, Poirot, you never cease to amaze me. How did you know the snow was the key from the start?" Poirot's eyes twinkled, his voice warm with conviction. "The snow, mon ami, it is like the human soul, beautiful, deceptive, but unable to hide the truth forever. It falls, it covers, but it also reveals, and I, Hercule Poirot, I listen." They walked toward their own carriage, the manor fading behind them. The snow, now melting under the sun's gentle touch, dripped softly from the eaves, as if weeping for the secrets it had kept, and the justice it had helped deliver.